So in this segment, we're going to be talking about a loophole in the UK-Australia deal that allows meat reared kind of below UK standards that would be illegal in the UK to get into the UK via a loophole. That hasn't been closed as far as I know of, to my knowledge. So school children and hospital patients could be fed meat from hormone-fed cattle, chlorine-washed chicken, pigs kept in cruel stalls that are illegal in the UK under a trade deal with Australia. Experts are warning. It's important to note that obviously there's no humane way of killing animals. Like, that doesn't exist. There are more humane ways, but there are no humane ways to do this. I'm going to tell you now, this show isn't funny, by the way. Superstore is not funny. These people are lying to you. So we got here, farmers and environmentalists say allowing imports that create high greenhouse gas emissions and undermine animal welfare would be grossly hypocritical of the government. And the fact is, this is stuff that can be, these meats can be published by the public sector. There are certain rules around it, as the article mentions, but this just shows you how kind of crappy our negotiators are, that they allow a loophole like this, because it could be exploited by a lot of different companies. The UK and Australia have agreed the vast majority of a post-Brexit free trade deal, aiming to seal a deal by next month. Ministers hope a deal would help the economy to surge ahead. That's a load of nonsense, because this deal adds less than only adds a bit onto the current trade we do. It's less than $1 billion, I think, which sounds like a lot, but we do about £18 billion worth of trade with Australia already. You're only adding a bit on. This deal really helps the Australian economy, but not ours. But a clause in government buying guidelines allows public sector bodies to use imported food that would be illegal to produce in the UK if they can justify doing so on cost grounds. And, we have schools and things that are run down. I doubt any school would do this, or any hospital would use this. The prisons might, though, because I doubt they care that much. But, if you're a public sector kind of whatever school, or, wherever you might be, say if you're not doing too well because the funds have been cut because of the goddamn government, I can see some places actually doing this. I couldn't tell you specifically who. It'd be mainly down to prisons, but yeah. MPs on Commons Food and Rural Affairs Committee have called for the closure of the loophole for hospitals, schools, prisons and government departments. No government department's going to buy this. Warning that ministers should lead by example on food standards. And the other main issue is that a clause like this is going to be noticed by other trade ministers around the world, and they're going to be pushing for stuff like this, but more aggressively. More access for beef that would be illegal if they were reared like this in this country. Cows that would be illegally farmed, should we say? Brazil, Canada, and the US are definitely going to be looking at this story. The government points out that importing hormone beef or chlorinated chicken would be illegal, and the Trade Secretary Liz Truss, who no one trusts, who has been negotiating with Australia, has promised not to lower import standards. But this loophole exists for a reason. Tory manifesto says, in all our trade negotiations, we will not compromise on our higher environmental standards, blah, blah, blah. However, fears have arisen that the combination of buying a loophole together with Australian pressure for a deal could mean people and institutions being served cheaper products that undercut UK production standards and cause more eco damage, not to mention the fact that I doubt I can't speak to the Australian, chicken and things like that, but, in the US, they also have chlorinated chicken, and they have massive salmonella outbreaks. So I don't think Australia's as bad, but still. This includes meat from pigs kept in confined sow stalls that are banned in the UK, and from cattle treated with growth hormones that are banned in the EU. Wool from sheep that have their back ends painfully cut, and powdered eggs from battery caged hens outlawed since 2012. And so this is stuff like pork, eggs and things like that, wool. These are things where, certain public sector places might try and get some of these other things because they would be cheaper. And that's a main problem, because it'll be undercutting the UK and it violates UK standards. But, the UK have allowed this loophole to go in place. It's not clear why they haven't gotten rid of it, and it's not great. Farmers in Australia and the US use artificial hormones to fatten cattle far more quickly. There are suspicions that at least one of them is carcinogenic, so I think that can cause things like heart attacks. And chicken carcasses are often washed with chlorine chicken to kill off bacteria that have infected the birds. But those are really they only use that because of the low standards in those countries when it comes to food hygiene. Campaigners say the step would also undermine Britain's farmers and be bad for human and animal health. The warning echo the warnings echo those given over chlorinated chicken and hormone beef from the US under a trade deal. And the thing is, the US, there's some real sharks there in the US. They have some of the best negotiators in the world, and they would see a clause like this and they would push on it, because if the UK allows hormone beef to come in from Australia via this loophole, that means that the UK are open to taking this hormone beef to an extent, and they're going to push on that and really exploit that kind of thing. Merino wool sheep are subjected to museling, where folds of skin and flesh are cut off without anaesthetic to prevent fly strike, and a practice illegal in the UK. Said this looks like, it sounds incredibly painful for the animal. And like I said, there's no humane way of killing an animal. There are just less humane ways of doing it, and just like there are less humane ways of getting wool from sheep, and it looks like the Australians don't care that much. A recent Australian Government Commission report last month found big problems with the humaneness of slaughter in abattoirs that would fail British standards. So the simple fact is, if Australia, if we cannot verify if Australian farms are holding up the standards that we have within this country, we should not be able to buy from these places. That's how it should be. But this loophole allows these meats to come in for public sector places. It's ridiculous that they've allowed such a loophole. Martin Lyons, the UK chairman for Nature Friendly Farming Network, said farmers across the UK have been working tirelessly to raise their concerns about the threat of being undercut by low standard imported products, and these concerns are potential imports of low environmental standards, high carbon meat. From high carbon Australian meat are exactly what we are afraid of. We were afraid of, and the thing is, right? Yeah, we can make the point that the majority of farmers Brexit. That's true. But what are you going to do now about it? Because you guys haven't barely protested or anything. This deal is going to get signed very soon. And if you're not going to protest this one, then I hate to tell you, buddy, it's going to get worse. So Kate Norgrove from WWF said Australia is the only developed country on the list of the world's largest 24 deforestation hotspots. She said, so Australia environmentally are not great. And, they do suffer a lot because of environmental problems such as wildfires. Their wildfires have been really bad over the last few years, and they are not taking the steps that they need to take in order to help fight climate change. They're just not doing it. Ms. Truss told BBC Andrew Marr, I can absolutely promise that we're not going to lower our excellent food standards to do this trade deal. I mean, you're not lowering the food standards, you're just allowing a loophole, you idiot. In this report, the MP said they were surprised and disappointed the government buying standards had not been used to improve animal welfare, sustainability and support for domestic producers. I hate to tell you, buddy, but we don't have that sort of influence where we can tell Australia to improve their standards. That's never going to happen. We would never get a trade deal. The reason why we're not looking at equivalency or alignment with the EU when it comes to food standards is because this is the only way we're going to get trade deals with these countries, Australia, New Zealand, America, you name it. They wrote, it is inappropriate for the government to advocate high food production standards for imports in future trade deals when any part of the public sector is exempt. The loophole, even if rarely used, must be closed. And the thing is, if the government argue that, this is not going to be used that often, then why not just get rid of it then? Because I think this loophole will be used far more than people realise, and it's going to be snuck in to public sector places. I'm not sure about the rules specifically, but because we can't actually see the trade deal until it's signed because of the decisions that Parliament has made. So it's very possible that maybe manufacturers who supply to the public sector could also buy this cheap Australian beef. That's possible. A government spokesperson said this government has been clear that in all our trade negotiations we would not compromise on our high environmental protection, animal welfare and food standards, and we will stand firm in trade negotiations to ensure any trade deals live up to the values of farmers and consumers across the UK. That's simply not happening though, is it? Because you've allowed this loophole to happen. Also the fact that you still won't put into law banning things like lower standard foods to be imported into this country. You haven't actually really put that into law, have you? So it's very possible that we will see imports from other countries of from farms and farmers who have meat that is lower standard to ours in terms of animal welfare. When it comes to hormone beef, chlorinated chicken, etc., we are going to see that stuff more and more, I think, in the UK. And you might not know it. It might be served at restaurants or in ready meals or whatever. That's what's going to happen, most likely. We will not undercut our own reputation for quality by lowering our food and animal welfare standards in pursuit of a trade deal. But, to get these deals right, Australia, they do have separate lines for exporting to other countries that have high standards, from what I've read. But the thing is, in order to maximise this, unless they change their standards dramatically and have higher standards like we do in the UK, which will cost money, why would they sign this deal? Because Australian farmers keep talking about how great this is going to be for them. So if they're not going to change, that means that most likely we are going to be importing, things like hormone beef that are lower standards than the ones we have in this country. And if that's not the case, if that's not going to happen, Liz Truss, then just close the loophole. Unless, of course, you can't get a trade deal without closing the loophole. Maybe that's the problem. Anyways, look, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.